All right, well, let's see where the next one goes. It didn't feel like anything that we played against gave us any impression about like what cards were good or what archetypes were good. None of the games felt like that was a relevant factor. None of our opponents were like doing any color archetypey things. We were doing dragon things, which felt like it's not the kind of thing that will very often come together in sealed, but the dragons things that we were doing didn't really matter. Unclear. Okay, so let's go ahead and add this pool. Yeah, I know. Okay, are you saying I have to make my deck before I can export this pool? Because that would suck. All right, let's just do it this way. Okay, done. Add to decks. Deck. My decks. Export. Paste deck. Paste. Load deck. Move all. Clear deck. There we go. Publish. Copy. All right. Do this, and then if we want to build along at home, here is the pool. Maybe the Lazan was not that good, 2 toughness is small. I agree that a Lazan on its own was not stellar, and for 5 mana is kind of underwhelming, and it has to be, like, hitting synergies to do something impressive. I guess the biggest problem is that we never actually drew our Adventure Dragon at the same time as Lazan, and that synergy was supposed to be one of the stronger synergies. We had no other adventure creatures, which is the other part of that dragon that has some strength. I don't know. I don't want to write it off immediately because it does feel like there were a lot of viable draws we had at a lot of point to make Lazan into a good card. We just never actually had them. Because it was not like our opponents killed our Lazan very often. We had one Lazan die to a removal spell. Every other Lazan stuck around and we just didn't get to do anything with it. But again, looking at the number of things we had in our deck that should have given us ways to do stuff with our Lazan, I feel like that's more down to variance than like the weakness of the archetype. But I also feel like that was a deck that probably had more cards that synergized with Lazan than most decks will. All right. So let's see. Let's get rid of all of these and all of these. And what do we have? Steadfast Unicorn was okay. Dawnbringer Clerics, probably okay. Not like good. Horn of Valhalla. 1 and a white for, well, first we would do Ysgard's Call. So white, white, X, create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. So for 5 mana, make 3 1/1s. It's not terribly exciting. I guess it gets better later on. And then for 5 mana, equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each creature you control. I assume this is probably fine if you view it as like a 6-drop. It's a pretty decent 6-drop. But this certainly doesn't seem spammy strong. It's just playable, strong. Mace of Disruption, 1 and a white. Equip 1. Equipped creature gets +0/+2 and has protection from demons and devils. Whenever it attacks, perpetually gets +1/+0. It has the same name as another creature card you control or a creature card in your graveyard. Okay. That seems dirtily and slow for 3 mana. I don't think that I'm terribly interested in playing that. Soldiers of the Watch. Okay, this one looked actively good. 2 mana 2/1 that when it attacks puts another 2 mana 2/1 in your hand. The first time. Steadfast Paladin, 2/2 lifelink for 2s, probably fine. Valiant Farewell. Probably okay-ish, but not good. You hear something on the Watch. Creatures you control get +1 until end of turn, or the spell deals 5 damage to target attacking creature. Oh, okay. This is actually pretty good. Pretty close to a hard removal spell for 2 mana that only destroys attacking creatures. Or else an Anthem that pumps your team. That's a decent amount of flexibility and also a relatively tempo-positive removal spell that I think I can get behind. Flaming Fist Officer, 2 and a white for a 2/2. Whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Flaming Fist Officer. Oh, okay. That also sort of synergizes with Double Team. And kind of synergizes with Horn of Valhalla a little bit. Sort of. Guiding Bolt, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, scry 2. That's fine. Priest of Ancient Lore, 2 and a white for a 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, you gain a life and draw a card. Doesn't have flying, but I guess it would probably be pretty decent even without flying. So, probably reasonable. Scouting Hawk, 2 and a white for a 1/1 with flyer. Keen Sight, when it enters the battlefield and opponent controls more lands than you, search your library or basic plains card, put it on the battlefield, tap, and then shuffle. This card I'm pretty sure is just like heinous. Heinous bad. Blessed Hippogriff. I'm already pretty interested in Tyr's Blessing, so this card is one that I think is pretty reasonable. Lae'zel's Acrobatics, 3 and a white. Instant. Exile all non-token creatures you control, then roll a d20. Return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next instep. Or return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control, then exile them again. Okay, so just mass flicker for all of your stuff. Which, admittedly, does not synergize with Flaming Fist Officer, but is kind of decent with the Priest of Ancient Lore nonsense, I guess? Too bad you can't choose which ones to use with this. Sea Tower Imprisonment. This card was actively just very good. Devout Paladin. Also Anthem. Okay, so we kind of have a go-wide Anthem-y thing going on in white. That actually seems like it might have enough support to work. Especially with Steadfast Unicorn being more go-wide support. So, like, this is not a bad start to a deck. Hawk was decent when it had a +4/+3 red enchant. Saw win a game just as a flyer body. Yeah, but I mean, that's just... You're in the market for a 3 mana 1/1 at that point, right? The ability is the thing that, like, isn't really ever going to happen at a point where it's actually good. I'm pretty not interested in that, I don't think. Ray of Frost is decent. You Come to a River is probably not terribly excellent. Blur seems really expensive, but I guess it does flicker Priest of Ancient Lore and synergize with Flaming Fist Officer in an interesting way, but probably not a good one. Pseudo Dragon Familiars, kind of small. Thayan Evokers, 2 and a blue for a 1/1 creature human wizard with double team. When it enters the battlefield, conjure a card named Lightning Bolt into your hand, then discard a card. Whenever you conjure 1 or more cards, put a +1/+1 counter on Thayan Evokers. But it does not make the Lightning Bolt castable. Interesting. So this is actually a blue-red card, despite it looking like a blue card, but it's completely heinous if you don't have a ton of red mana in your deck. Okay. Val was the looter that could get value in the late game. Vile Duplication was the kind of mediocre clone. Water Weird's fine. Young Blue Dragon. Alright, Young Blue Dragon's kind of good. In fact, I actually think I prefer this to the Red Dragon we had in our last deck as far as synergizing with Lysira or whatever the name was. You can always use the bolts to specialize into red. Yeah. You could, but the bolts aren't free because you do have to conjure the bolt and then discard a card. So, like, you could just discard the lightning bolt instead of whatever other card you were going to discard. Oof, not the most exciting, eh? And Air Cult Elemental and Sword Coast Serpent are fine. Alright. Armor of Shadows in black is fine. Ghost Lantern, kind of fine, not great. Shambling Ghast and Deadly Dispute kind of synergize with Flaming Fist Officer a little bit, I guess. Thieves' Tools, not terribly exciting. Mind Rot, not terribly exciting. Nefarious Imp, I guess it's fine, it's not exciting. Chain Devil, still not exciting. Grim Bounty, it's fine. Manticore, Summon Undead, meh. Black Dragon, I guess Black Dragon's kind of okay. Not terribly exciting. Red, we have Dragon's Fire, which is probably better than every black card we had. 3 Hobgoblin Captains, that I kind of dig. Giant Fire Beetles, Menace Double Team. That's interesting. Dragonborn Immolator, still not very interested in. Cardoon, Patron of Flames. 2 red for a 4/3 legendary creature demon. Haste. Whenever Cardoon, Patron of Flames attacks, put a flame counter on it, then seek a card with mana value equal to the number of flame counters on it and exile that card face down. When it dies, put all cards you own with it into your hand. At the beginning of the end step of your next turn, discard those cards. Okay. So it's a 4 mana, 4/3 with haste that might draw a 1-drop and might draw a 1-drop and a 2-drop if it's attacked twice. That's reasonable, I guess. 4 mana, 4/3 haste is kind of, I think, what you're getting out of this card for the most part. Although, admittedly, Steadfast Unicorn does actually give us something to get with it. We also have 3 Dueling Rapiers. Maybe that's a card that's, like, playable as a 1 or a 2 of? I don't know. Probably not, but I don't know. Then an Occult Elemental and Nalfeshni? 5 and a red for a 4/6 creature beast demon with flying. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. If it's a permanent spell, the copy gains haste, and at the beginning of the end step, sacrifice this permanent. Whenever you cast a spell from exile? What? With no enabler for that? Just like I have to exile my own stuff and figure out ways to play it? I guess like an adventure is what this is most intended to synergize with. Of which I have none. Okay. That does not seem good for a 6-drop. I mean, I guess it is a 4/6 flyer for 6, which isn't awful. It's not great, but yeah, I guess that's not awful. The Mass Flicker spell does not allow us to recast stuff. No. We have 2 Wild Shapes, which are fine. We have 2 Line Up the Shots, which are fine. Circle of Land Druid, not great. Prosperous Innkeeper is fine. Underdark Basilisk. It's funny how this is worse than the black 2-drop with Death Touch. Not even accounting for the fact that the black 2-drop with Death Touch has an upside. Band together. Up to 2 target creatures you control each deal damage equal to their power to another target creature. That's kind of a removal spell. It's not terribly embarrassing. Jade Orb of Dragonkind. Follow the Tracks. Myconid's fine. Ambitious Dragonborn is not good. Ettercap It's a 5 mana 2/5 reach. Web shot, 3 mana destroy target creature with flying. Okay, I guess that's fine-ish. Owlbear, 5 mana 4/4 ETB draw cards seems solid. 6 mana 4/4 flyer. I guess the 6 mana 4/6 flyer is better than that, technically. And a Hill Gorger. Herd Gorger. Minthara of the Absolute. Okay, so Minthara actually does synergize with this white-black thing a fair bit. Yeah, I'm willing to believe Owlbear is just a good card. That tracks. And a Trelisara. Interesting. Alright, we're definitely playing Basilisk Collar. Giving creatures Death Touch and Lifelink is generally good. Cloak of the Bat. Equipped creature has flying and haste. That is cool artwork. Prophetic Prism. Fixes colors. Draws cards. Lantern of Revealing. Adds mana of any color. Oh, Lantern of Revealing is a cool card. Ramp, color fixing, and card draw in the late game? Huh. And Pilgrim's Eye. Well, we're definitely going to play a Pilgrim's Eye. So the way I see it, we have two options. We can either go into white-black for Minthara, or white-green for Trelisara. And I feel like most of our green random cards are slightly better than our random black random cards. I guess we could just splash Minthara and do the rest of it in green. Does this acrobatics thing have, like, any synergy with Minthara? No, right? No. No, it does not. But it does synergize with Herd Gorger, Owlbear, not really the Paladin. Synergizes with the Myconid, the Pilgrim's Eye, the Priests, not the Flaming Fists, not the Soldiers of the Watch. Does synergize with the Innkeeper, does not synergize with Trelisara. So we have some stuff that it synergizes with. So it does trigger Minthara, but it also fizzles the Minthara trigger, which makes it not really particularly useful. So basically we synergize with these cards, but not these cards. Which I don't know that I'm terribly interested in. Am I supposed to be interested in a 6 mana 4/4? Not only does Minthara in exile get ignored by the trigger, but also the Minthara in play after the flicker gets ignored by the trigger. Because no part of Minthara actually increases the size of other Mintharas in play. And because it's getting exiled and then returned, it's seeing itself as a different permanent now. We have no gates. Can probably play 16 lands plus a Prophetic Prism and call that fine. We don't have a lot of reach. Maybe I'm supposed to play more removal spells to try to approximate more reach. The alternative to doing this is to try to go white-red, because then we get, I guess, Dueling Rapier is not really granting first strike or anything, but Dragon's Fire and some Hobgoblin Captains. Potentially... Oh, come on. Let me just leave. No, wait, hold on. Let's actually make some pretty lands. I want to take a look at this with an actual curve restored. So this horn is more like a 6-drop. This is probably sort of fine. Our alternative is... Three, 6, 7, possibly 8. I'm also going to need to play some black sources for the Minthara. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I would cut the Prism in that case and play 17 lands, probably. Is this better than the green version? The Hobgoblin Captains are interesting, but also would be better off with more Dueling Rapiers. Probably not worth playing a 6-mana 5/6, so maybe we just play more Dueling Rapiers. There really isn't a lot of reach in terms of burn. There's a lot less ways to trigger Flaming Fist Officer that are reasonable, because we have fewer token producers, or random creatures who trade off effectively like Underdark Basilisk or Prosperous Innkeeper while having already gotten their value. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, right. I'll be cutting Prophetic Prism to go up to 17. Well, we're still building it in Arena because that lets us actually have it on screen. I figured people might want to take a look at the deck and see what they would build at home. I'm usually pretty hesitant to build decks this aggressive if they lack reach, in the sense of, like, how do I deal the last 5 damage to my opponent once they have bigger creatures than I have? But as far as removal goes, I guess we have Dragon's Fire. We have Guiding Bolt. We have Sea Tower Imprisonment. Blessed Hippogriff kind of functions as a reach. The red version might be reasonable. green version, I'm probably supposed to play more band together. Is all I can think of. I don't really know how the green version actually wins, though. I guess there's Minthara, sort of. But the green version seems like it's trying to do dirtle synergy stuff without actually, like, having a strong chance to kill the opponent. I don't think that I can get behind the green version as much as I can get behind the red version. Yeah, I mean, we can play a 7-6 and then just keep swinging. That is one of the possibilities. But that anticipates our opponent doesn't have a way to deal with it. Like, it seems like most of what the green-white deck is doing is trying to either go tall on a Trelisara, or go tall on one of the Flaming Fist officers, or... like, it feels like it's trying to dirtle and build up some kind of creature in a way that isn't actively pressuring the opponent. And I can't help but feel like that's probably vulnerable to just... the opponent plays some big swingy card that's some crazy mythic that actually does something that puts the opponent crazy far ahead, and it just doesn't have a way to respond to that. Whereas, like, at least this red-white deck feels like it's trying to kill people, which is something. This probably can get away with being a 16-card deck. Probably for the giant fire beetles, I'm guessing. The Valiant Farewell or the Steadfast Unicorn might be interesting too. I don't know. I don't think the acrobatics synergize with anything meaningfully. I think this is what it is. I'm not really seeing many alternatives jumping out to me. I can't tell if Valiant Farewell is something that I should be interested in playing or not. I don't think so, though. I'm hoping Basilisk Collar plus Hobgoblin Captain comes up. But, alright. We'll give it a go. Well, alright. Hobgoblin Captain has come up. There's not a lot else going on here, but I don't think that we're supposed to mulligan ever, because it is still limited. So that mostly tracks. Should have led on plane so that I wasn't revealing that I have a 1-mana instant. Would I rather Dragon's Fire the Paladin? I guess I'd probably rather hear something on Watch the Paladin, wouldn't I? I don't want my opponent gaining life, that's for sure. I don't know. I'm going to assume we kill the Paladin, but I'm not sure which of these I'm supposed to use on it. I'm a lot more constrained on red sources, I mean, I'm constrained on every source, to be entirely honest. We'll go ahead and kill it with the Hear Something on Watch, and then just hope that they don't play something so big that I can't kill it with Dragon's Fire. Bronze Walrus. Seems extremely good. Scrying is powerful. Would like to find a red source, if possible. Double top. That's only moderately horrifying. Alright, Giant Fire Beetles is at least something that spends mana somewhat efficiently. Flaming Fist and Battlecry Goblin. Interesting. Okay, so the opponent willingly missed a land drop to presumably get a 2-drop into hand and then a land after that, maybe? I don't know. Basilisk Collar's looking like it's probably going to be stellar in this sort of red-white mirror, but I don't know if it's necessarily something I'm supposed to play and equip this turn. Definitely think that we're doing this double team thing. I don't know if we're actually playing the other Fire Beetles this turn, though. I could play Hobgoblin Captain and Basilisk Collar. Or I could play Basilisk Collar, hold up Dragon's Fire for the Battlecry Goblin. I definitely don't want them to be able to attack with Battlecry Goblin and get the 1/1, I don't think. So I guess that means I'm probably equipping the Basilisk Collar. And I think I'm probably supposed to Dragon's Fire this Battlecry Goblin before they have the opportunity to untap with a 1-mana indestructible spell. We're really hoping we can top deck a mountain. Having less mana is a pretty big constraint here. Even if we top deck a Plains, that still lets us start playing 2-drops and equipping Basilisk Collars to things. Sweet. Mountain's great. Okay, so our opponent has no land drop, but wanted to keep up mana with their Walrus to do something. Not a terribly huge fan of that, but we shall see what comes of it. I don't think my opponent's very likely to play the 2 damage to all creatures spell in their deck that is playing a bunch of cards that die to it. So I think that I'm okay just flooding the board with Hobgoblins here. Young Red Dragon, make a treasure? Okay. Curious. Okay, so they really have something they want to play for 5 or 6 mana then, I'm guessing? Otherwise they probably would have just played the 3/2 dragon without making a treasure? Do we want to trade with you? I feel like I kind of don't want to trade in a world where I can instead just attack with a board of creatures that can't be blocked. So let's say quit the Hobgoblin Captain to start gaining Menace, then we play the other Fire Beetles, or to start gaining life, not Menace. Then we play the other Fire Beetles, and now next turn we can play a very powerful, very giant Devoted Paladin. That probably just wins the game on the spot. Oh. Alright, well, that's disappointing. But they still have no blockers. Still taking a lot of damage here. I'm guessing now I'm probably incentivized to block the Flame Fist with the Fire Beetles. Is that even true, given that I've got Devoted Paladin? So I got 10 damage with Devoted Paladin. If we hit a land drop, I've got lethal with no blockers. Unlikely that they would have no blockers. I I still feel like I'm supposed to generally be comfortable racing because I've got lifelink from Basilisk Collar. Opponent thinks... Alright. I'll go ahead and block. You've convinced me, opponent. Flaming Fist Officer is interesting. So if I equip Basilisk Collar to Giant Fire Beetle, and then play Flame Fist Officer and swing, they block Hobgoblin, I gain 2 life, Flame Fist Officer gets a counter on it. It's medium interesting. We can play Devoted Paladin. Oh, this also gives Vigilance? Wow, that's good. Okay, never mind. We're just playing Devoted Paladin then. Missed the part where this gives Vigilance. Because that also gives First Strike on Hobgoblin Captain, so if they want to block to kill the Giant Fire Beetles, they have to lose their Walrus. Which I kind of doubt they want to do. Or at least if they're willing to take that. I am also willing to take that. Now it gets pretty difficult for them to develop the board and hold up removal spells at the same time. The main threat is if they hold up removal spells and kill us with Young Dragon at the same time. That appears to be the case. Yeah. Alright, so what's the pump spell? Cute. They get to return the Valor Singer to their hand. Which stops the lifelink. Do I put them to 1 here with the Dueling Rapier? Does that matter to me at all? Kind of. I'm currently trading the Flaming Fist Officer with the Rescuer, provided that they play the Valor Singer. What's the difference between putting them to 1 and putting them to 3? Not really any different. Yeah, maybe there's a difference. They could gain life. That's what the difference could be. Yeah, there's the Valor Singer, pump the Red Dragon. Attack with both, force the block. I have 2 lethal threats. Okay. The fact that my opponent conceded, which set my life to -2 for some reason, really just gave me a heart attack. But we did win. I can't believe I spent that long with a Basilisk Collar in play, and my life total was still under that much pressure. It's kind of like not a good sign for like the entire deck, really. Because I think I successfully connected with exactly 0 Basilisk Collar attacks in that entire time period. Do you get to keep the cards unsealed? As long as it's not a Phantom Sealed, and I believe this is not a Phantom Sealed, so yes, I think so. Is it better to do sealed than quick draft for collections? I don't really know for the purposes of collections. I haven't personally spent very much time trying to learn the nuances there. I'm kind of just the person who opens packs until I have enough wild cards to build whatever deck I need. Alright, so I could play Priest of Ancient Lore here, but if my opponent's going to dirtle around, I'm assuming that I should just play Dueling Rapier and Soldier of the Watch. And just put the maximum amount of power into play. So far, Soldier of the Watch feels moderately impressive. The main problem is trying to figure out how to spend 3 mana while playing a 2-drop on turn 3. Or I guess maybe it's energizes better as a 4-drop? Really? I don't know. Do I want to play this Flaming Fist Officer in case my opponent flashes in some kind of blocker here, or would I rather play Priest of Ancient Lore? Double Team has felt very strong on Soldier of the Watch. I'm not sure if any of the other cards looked impressive with it, but I also haven't actually played with any of the other ones. I'm going to assume that I'm supposed to play Flaming Fist Officer here for attacking. Yeah, or my opponent could just not have anything. That works too. Displacer Kitten. That does not look like a card that's likely to be particularly good in Limited. It's mostly just a 4-mana 2/2. It's kind of got a lot of ways that it's busted and constructed, but that's not here and now. Alright, well, I don't really want to lose this Flaming Fist Officer, and I don't want to not do 2 damage, so I guess I'm just going to keep attacking my opponent because they're not playing anything that matters. And now they're at 2. Yeah, that's a 4/5. Okay, well, we were successfully on the play and killed our opponent by playing 2 powered creatures. I guess that's a good mark for the Duelist's Rapier this time around? So you lose 2,000 gems, you get 6 packs in your pool and 0 wins, you get 3 packs and 200 gems, and 10 packs cost 2,000 gems, you break even from a cost perspective no matter what. But that's the wrong way to think of cost evaluations, because you're not comparing playing sealed to opening 10 packs. I mean, unless you want to open 10 packs, but you shouldn't. You want to compare sealed to whatever the next best or actual best alternative is in terms of how to use your mana or use your money efficiently. What's the best way to convert actual dollars into complete collection? Or you have to ask yourself whether having a complete collection actually is something you even want. It might be that your objective, like mine, is not to have a complete collection, but instead to just have enough wildcards to build specific constructed decks. In which case, figuring out how to build a complete collection is not the correct goal. Lifelink, lifelink, lifelink. I think I'm supposed to play Fire Beetles over Pilgrim's Eye when I already have a land drop here. So Sea Tower Imprisonment actively puts Soldiers of Watch onto the battlefield, which I think I get to put in my hand later. That feels like a good way to use mana effectively. Yeah, I don't want to block this because I'd like to get another giant Fire Beetles. For the sake of mana efficiency, I feel like I'm supposed to imprison Lulu. But maybe I'm supposed to imprison their next card that actually has flying, but I don't have a good way to use my mana this turn if I'm not using Sea Tower Imprisonment. And next turn, as long as I play Sea Tower Imprisonment this turn, I can play a 3-drop and a 2-drop next turn. So I think that means that ultimately I'm supposed to be imprisoning Lulu here for mana efficiency's sake. We are certainly managing to do a good job of enabling White-Red's double team theme. We don't have any way to actually get paid off for that, but we're doing a good job of enabling it. I'd like my opponent to play like some giant 4/4 here, which is not really likely in white-blue, but I really would like to be able to Guiding Bolt their flyer and then play a Soldiers of the Watch. I could also trade off a Soldier of the Watch with Steadfast Paladin here. I wouldn't get the value of the double team. Oh, Portable Hole. I mean, I did still get a 2-for-1 out of my Sea Tower nonsense, but that still makes me sad. How do we use mana this turn effectively? Could just play the Flaming Fist Officer and force them to not attack with the Steadfast Paladin by having held back with the giant Fire Beetles. Could play Horn of Valhalla, or rather Ysgard's Call for 3. Then next turn play Pilgrim's Eye plus Flame Fist Officer. Yeah, it's closer to appealing. Certainly a better use of mana. Flame Fist Officer this turn. Just hold back giant Fire Beetles. It's a lot less mana efficient, but it is potentially more resource utility in the long run. Don't think I'm supposed to play this slow and grindy. I think I'm just supposed to use my mana efficiently. Cool. Alright. Well, given that they tapped our giant Fire Beetles, that super makes it correct to activate our Horn. Yeah, Seal and Draft are pretty different in terms of what sort of strategies and archetypes they encourage you to go for. I think that a lot of players think that there's more overlap than there is in reality. But, But I think that there is, right now, a lot of reason to want to prepare for Seal. So, I believe it to be worth preparing for in that regard. How does this work? What does a duplicate mean? Does it get the flying? I feel like it doesn't get the flying. I hope it doesn't get the flying. So when our opponent eventually does play that Kalim, which is what I'm going to assume they're going to do with the other Kalim, we do have a Guiding Bolt for it. What kind of interaction does our opponent have here for 1 mana? Okay, so they can give a creature indestructible. Is almost certainly what that is. Which is fine, as long as that's pumping our Flaming Fist Officer. So if I attack with Giant Fire Beetles here, they double block, I kill the Paladin, they give the Paladin indestructible. But we get the indestructibility out of their hand, and our Flaming Fist Officer gets bigger. Is that cool? Are we fine with that? Do I not like that? Having a creature around also represents Horn of Valhalla being bigger, which is interesting. Costs 5 mana to equip. Don't have any ability to give anything lifelink. I feel like I'm just not supposed to give my opponent the ability to gain 2 life. No, they have a 1-mana removal spell, apparently, instead. That is a common. Wow, that's disgusting. Okay. Okay. Well, the good news is that means that they didn't kill the Pilgrim's Eye, which will be relevant. Do you still have flying? No. Okay. Because putting the Horn of the Valhalla on the Pilgrim's Eye currently feels important. Okay, let's start with this. Giant Fire Beetle attack. This isn't suspicious in any way, opponent. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. If they double blocked, I was going to flash in the Dueling Rapier to kill both of them. But, regrettably. Okay. How do you feel about Giant Pilgrim's Eye, opponent? I do have to figure out a way to actually, like, kill my opponent. Cool. More removal. I mean, I guess the 2/4 is hypothetically not the world's fastest clock. Don't want to trade off more creatures than I have to because the horn makes each creature worth quite a bit here. Alright, so I could equip it to the Fire Beetles, which has Menace, or I could equip it to a tinier creature, which allows us to still block the Soul Knife Spy with only a single creature. I guess I can just play the other Fire Beetles this turn, which I should have done before attacking. I don't think there's any benefit to holding up Guiding Bolt through combat here, or Dueling Rapier for that matter. So I'm missing 1 point of damage by doing it this way. Next turn I can play Steadfast Unicorn and activate it. Just go absolutely wild. Air Cult Elemental bounces the Fire Beetles. Okay. It's not super pleasant, but they're still not particularly fast. Definitely have to block Soul Knife. Do I want to block this Soldiers of the Watch? I shrink how relevant Horn of Valhalla is by a lot. And I need my creature to be big enough to actually race, or to get over Air Cult Elemental. I'm gonna go with I think this is fine. Dragonfire's, yeah, not very useful actually, is it? I shouldn't have played that Unicorn. I should have just equipped the Horn. Oh well. This is a little less mana efficient, because I doubt that I can actually do very much with Dragon's Fire here. If I can, I guess we can kill Soldier of the Watch, knowing that we're not really going to need to do anything else for the foreseeable future. On my next turn, I need to leave up 3 mana for Guiding Bolt, so I mean, I guess I can play a Dueling Rapier. if I don't end up Dragon's Firing anything here. They scry 2. Technically, we're not going to know whether they keep Kalem on top, but we can probably assume that they're going to keep Kalem on top. I have to imagine they want to play that, which means I hold Guiding Bolt to answer the 5/6. Double top. Okay. Ooh, Rasad. That is something that I 1,000,000,000% want to Dragon's Fire. Guess there's no sense giving them the information before they declare attackers that the Rasad is going to die. Alright, so we are on a 2-turn clock. Do draw a land. That bit's nice. Which means I could activate Steadfast Unicorn and equip Horn. Activating Steadfast Unicorn. So the Fire Beetles is unblockable. Steadfast Unicorn is chumpable. If I equipped the Horn to the 1/1, they would have to chump it. I don't assume that that's relevant. Let's go with Horn of Fire Beetles. I could just try to put my opponent on a 2-turn clock here, which might be the most reasonable way to do this. Although they're going to have another soldiers to block next turn. Does that mean I need to maximize the amount of damage that I'm doing this turn? Or does it mean I need to spread out the damage that I'm doing this turn? Oh, that costs 4? Shoot. Oh, they're not going to have enough mana to play the Kalem and the Soldiers of the Watch. But they are going to be able to just... Oh, what if they don't... if they don't play the creature and instead just activate it to tap down the giant Fire Beetles, I don't think that I can win. So we're kind of hoping that they misplay in that sense. I mean, it could top deck something relevant, I suppose. Ah, shoot. All right. I very, very likely cannot win without the ability to untap something. Do I Guiding Bolt my own giant Fire Beetles looking for the Scry too? Flyer wouldn't help. Lifelink doesn't help. Yeah, I don't really have any way I can win here. I can hope they didn't scry Kalem to the top, but that's basically impossible. Devoted Paladin is not a way to gain life, so that doesn't accomplish anything. I can't even win on board. Yeah, alright. Well, Guiding Bolt looking extremely poor, given that we had it in hand our entire game and there was literally never any point in the entire game that we had the opportunity to cast it. What do we take away from that? That spending a bunch of time moving equipment around is really expensive? That it can be very, very difficult to actually do all the double team nonsense and develop your board at a reasonable pace. And we certainly never ran out of ways to spend our mana. We just died against very tiny creatures before that actually turned into winning the game, which is not encouraging. Alright, well, this time around we're curving out. Admittedly, Steadfast Paladin would have looked absolutely, completely stellar last game. If at any point we'd been able to start equipping it and gaining life. If we don't win this game where we get to go 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop on the play, playing decent creatures at every point on that curve, then we have some serious problems we will need to reconsider about this kind of an archetype. So we don't have a 4-drop, but we do have the ability to activate Steadfast Unicorn, which at least will fill that gap a little bit. Okay. So I could activate Steadfast Unicorn, or we could put 2 1/1s into play and then have the Horn set up to make Steadfast Paladin absolutely gigantic next turn. I think we will opt for absolutely gigantic next turn. Meanwhile, my opponent has played a turn 3 ramp spell and has access to no colors except for green. So, like, if we lose this game, we have very deeply horrifying implications to contend with. Actually, all it would take was my opponent playing deal 2 damage to each non-dragon, and I would instantly lose this game. Okay. Like a very giant Steadfast Paladin. Do I just have to assume that my opponent must chump block? Yeah, I think I can just attack with everything and they have to chump block the Paladin here. Really? Opponent, if you're comfortable going to 2, I'm a little horrified. Alright, well, I actually do still just instantly pretty much lose the game to them dealing 2 damage to each creature. But dirtling around is a good sign. Alright, we have 2 blockers while my opponent's at 2 life. And 1 red mana. I believe I would like to attempt to play around a 1-mana removal spell. I don't know if there are any in this format, but I believe that is probably the right thing for me to do. Oh, that's fair. I guess I didn't even successfully play around that because of the way that they could chump block, huh? That was not clean. Any contenders from the new set to slot into a Historic Adventures deck? I don't know. I haven't actually looked at the rares and mythics yet. Nothing so far that comes to mind. Because the next qualifier is sealed, I've kind of only been viewing things through the lens of limited for the time being. There's not a 9-hour set review because I did do, I think, like a 5-hour set review for just the uncommons. And then I kind of had some severe insomnia the next 2 days and did not finish it. And while I sat here debating whether I was supposed to finish that or play the set, I decided playing the set would probably be more educational. Sea Tower Imprisonment being double white makes it this kind of a harder hand to keep. Whatever, we'll just draw white sources, it'll be fine. I mean, we have a 3-drop and a 4-drop in hand already, so what could go wrong? Mulligan? In limited? I don't know. Flaming Fist Dustguard seems so good for a common. Like, it's kind of just a huge amount of stats for 2 mana. I can't even block this thing because I really need to get my double team value. I kind of feel like my opponent spent 2 mana and got more value out of a card than I'm going to get having spent 6 mana on mine. 7 mana, actually. Not sure how to feel about that. Not good is probably the answer. Oh, cool. Alright, well this has not gone well. Am I willing to make this block? I have no real other viable alternatives. Well, we're gonna need to draw a white source, and then preferably another white source after that. Double top, huh? Okay, well, there's one white source. That's something at least. Okay, that's horrifying. I guess the good news is our opponent's Lizard Folk Librarian probably can't attack into our 4/4. I'm hoping. And I'm hoping I hit a white source and get to play Earth Cult Elemental. Hoping. No. You know what? Cardoon? That's actually kind of okay, though. It's not the worst. I'm getting kind of consistently impressed with this Lizard Folk Librarians just from like the decent body plus a scry 2 is relatively solid standpoint. Oh wow, trades, absolutely trades opponent. Yeah, well, not trades. Disappointing. I mean, I guess I almost kind of traded 1-for-1. Sort of. This Hippo trick is consistently, like, hyper impressive. Yeah. Alright. Okay, Basilisk Collar. That's some action. They still have stuff they can do. That's not cool. Alright, opponent. Do you have something you want to do to my 4/4 Death Touch lifelinker? Jumpsies? Or do you just want to flicker your priest? Oh, give it +2/+0 and nope, just bounce it. I still have not managed to gain a single point of life off the Basilisk Collar. That's kind of wild when you think about it. Oh, what does this do? When it enters the battlefield, non-token creatures you control perpetually gain double team. Whenever you cast a creature spell, it perpetually gains double team. Seriously? Okay. So they just have, like, infinity combat tricks now? Ay. Goodness gracious. Guiding Bolt, why are you so garbage? There's like nothing in this format that has 4 power. Uh-huh. The part where my opponent has literally infinite Blessed Hippogriff combat tricks is a little much. My Sea Tower Imprisonment is also useless against Infinity Rescuer Schwingas. Ah, dear. I could read what this card is doing, but I'm not sure if that would be a particularly useful use of my time. Cool. So I kill 1 creature if I attack with the Devoted Paladin. I suppose I kind of just have to live with that. I'm assuming that they double block and then give Indestructible to... Well, it doesn't even matter what order I put them in. They just get to choose which one they want to give Indestructible to forever. Oh, they didn't give anything Indestructible. Okay, I can live with that. Good news is taxing their mana here is actually pretty relevant when they have infinity cards they can work with. The good-ish news is that a 6/6 with a Basilisk Collar does gain me a lot of life every turn. I think they're probably just supposed to sacrifice the 3/4 Librarians at the moment. Opponent? What? Huh. Okay. They may not realize they could sacrifice a land or a creature? Because, like, there's a lot of permanents in play, of which I think that was, like, literally the worst thing they could have sacrificed, which is confusing. Huh, okay. So I'm assuming that they're going to return the OG to their hand when I attack with the Earth Cult Elemental. We're hoping we draw a white source so that I can cast this horn for a bunch of 1/1s. Oh, they actually take the damage? Cool. Alright, well... we have a lot of stuff now, I guess. What are they doing? Huh? Are you, like, trying to kill me, opponent? Does it still have double team? No? How are you... What's the plan to stop me from gaining a lot of life now? I thought that was supposed to be what Rescuer Chwinga did. Opponent, how about you just play like a giant 7-drop that I can kill with Guiding Bolt? So that I can finally get value out of this Guiding Bolt. Is no one ever going to play anything that I can Guiding Bolt? Is that the plan? Okay. Well, opponent's definitely scrying and gaining a lot of life, I guess. The plan, yes, is probably play Horn, attach Horn to Earth Cult Elemental, and attach Basilisk Collar to Earth Cult Elemental. And then just sit around giggling while I gain life for the time being. Okay, opponent. Like, you had this engine that gave you infinity chump blocks that didn't let me do damage, but we have gotten rid of that engine, so what now? Because my creature had Death Touch, their 2/2 died. Because it took damage from a creature with Death Touch. That part's cool. The Sea Tower Imprisonment is, like, completely useless while my opponent has an OG in play. Yeah, Soul Knife Spy with flying kinda sucks. Not a fan of that. But... oh well. I don't even think it's worth putting any soldiers in front of anything, because it just makes my Earth Cult Elemental smaller. They have an indestructibility spell for the OG, so, like, it just kills my 2/2s and makes the Earth Cult Elemental smaller. I think I actually lose more life by blocking than by not blocking. Amusingly. What am I supposed to do here? Okay. Well, they play Hippogriff. Sure. That means they no longer have as many instant speed things they can do. I guess I can always just hope that they have no way to interact with Earth Cult Elemental, and so I just play this Sea Tower Imprisonment and then the game is over? Is the hope? I was kind of expecting to not get any use out of this, because the opponent would infinitely be able to blink their own creatures that I put the Sea Tower on. Okay, so that's on the battlefield now. And this is also on the battlefield now. And I already established that I don't really want to block anything with these 1/1s, so I guess we're getting in there. Presumably they have something they can do at instant speed here. Yeah. Which means that I'm mostly just dead, I think. 5, block, block. Yeah. Dead if the opponent notices that I'm dead. Guess I could have swung with 1 less 5/5 and wouldn't be dead, but also would be dead on the crackback. Yeah, maybe if I had not swung with a single 1/1, I could still survive this, but it wouldn't be a pleasant attempt to survive this. So if they give flying to the wrong creature, or if they don't swing with enough creatures, they do have to swing with everything. And they do have to give flying to a creature with 3 power. Alright, that kills us. Well, almost enough mistakes were made for us to win an unwinnable game, but not quite. Like, at no point in that game did it feel like I was actually capable of winning, other than the one turn where my opponent decided not to play a creature, which indicated that they probably were holding something up. I wonder if that was winnable if I swing with 1 fewer 1/1. It was definitely the correct play to swing with 1 fewer 1/1. Cat? He just took off not too long ago. So we will probably wait like 30 minutes and then I can go grab him. I really find it very interesting how unimpressive Basilisk Collar has been in general right now. I was really expecting it to be like a deeply overpowered limited card. And I think we've connected with it like a grand total of once. I wonder if that's just because there's way more interaction? But perhaps the most intriguing point thus far, unfortunately this is probably going to have to be a mulligan. The most intriguing point thus far has been that Guiding Bolt is like apparently turbo heinous. So we have literally never had an opponent play a creature that is killable with it. All the creatures in the land. Okay, so presumably our Priest of Ancient Lore enters the battlefield tapped? Oh, really? You can make my... Oh. Oh. I didn't really understand how that worked with lands. That's very good. Alright, well, unfortunately Myconid's extremely good against Soldiers of the Watch. That's not a very interesting attack. Have the adventure creatures added a lot of interaction compared to AFR? Some of them definitely. The 4-drop combat trick one seems like the standout in terms of just constantly shifting interactions around. Okay, so my opponent's kind of flooding the board. The Flaming Fist Officer is going to be a problem. I think they actually could have just swung with the Sapperling and the Tollkeeper there. I wouldn't have had good blocks on either of them. Let's see. Do I want to play Pilgrim's Eye so that I could play Devoted Paladin next turn? probably rather just play the Priest of Ancient Lore. No attacks. Ugh, this Flaming Fist Officer is going to be a problem very quickly. I guess not really. I don't care if my opponent goes too tall on a creature that doesn't have trample, because I do eventually get to just represent blocks with Basilisk Collar. The Dread Linorm Adventure. Which one's that? The 4-mana one? The 4-mana one I was talking about is the white 4-mana flying creature that gives other creatures flying, and then for 1 mana gives a creature indestructible. Is that green one 2 mana for hexproof and +2/+2? What are you doing? Okay, so presumably this is a combat trick, but okay, let's get the combat trick out of your hand then. Okay. +3/+3, reach and trample, and your next creature gets a +1/+1 counter, reach counter, and trample counter on it? That's a little much, don't we think? So I could play Hobgoblin Captain, or I could suit up a Priest with a Basilisk Collar and just stop my opponent from having any good attacks. It's 3 and a green to give hexproof and +2/+2? That's pretty expensive, isn't it? Oh, also it untaps. Got it. Yeah, if it untaps, that's a different story. For sure. So I could play Cardoom and equip it with the Basilisk Collar. Ship it, and trade with the Tollkeeper. Is that appealing? I don't know if that's appealing. Play Cardoom, swing naturally, probably still trade with the Tollkeeper, get a 1-drop, play the 1-drop immediately. It's not unappealing. Could just jam the Devoted Paladin, swing with the Priest, swing with the Soldiers of the Watch. I could swing with the Pilgrim's Eye too. It's probably the most appealing. They kill the Priest and then swing back with the Flaming Fist Officer. That's probably fine. That's probably fine. Have the digital mechanics made the limited experience meaningfully different? Double Team probably so far is the one that has done that the most, and I do believe that that has been interesting. It feels like they managed to get the design into an interesting place where like Double Team has produced different styles of game, although the nuance of how that affects games, I can't say that I've like completely puzzled out yet. I don't think that conjured cards have purple text. I think modified cards have purple text. It just so happens that everything that's conjured by Double Team has been modified because it has the Double Team removed. Okay. I would have expected they would have actually wanted to kill the priest so that they could attack, but yeah, if they don't want to, they don't want to. And our opponent plays a big ol' 3-3. Okay. I'm feeling a board stall coming on. Do I want to attack with priest and just, like, trade with a 1-1? I don't believe that I have any desire to do that. Why did they not play the Pegasus Guardian? What are they holding up here that they would rather do? That seems horrifying. So Devoted Paladin just trades with the Death Toucher. I guess that means I'm mostly just equipping up the Basilisk Collar on the Soldiers of the Watch, huh? And then just shipping the Soldiers of the Watch in? How to rank my limited/sealed play versus my constructed play? I don't know. It's been a long time since I've actually like spent much time dedicated to sealed draft, and I feel like it's the kind of skill that does deteriorate over time. Oh, cool. All right, well, I can't really beat that. All right. How do we get out of this mess? My opponent has blown up my Basilisk Collar and also drawn a card and also made a bunch of tutus. And also played a second Flaming Fist Officer. Dear me, dear me, dear me. I think that I'm generally a pretty solid sealed player. Like, I think after a couple of weeks of practice, I would usually consider myself to be better at sealed relative to the general population than I am at constructed. But obviously that varies for many reasons. What kind of nasty combat trick did you, top deck opponent, that you are willing to just throw away a bunch of stuff like this? Oh dear. Well, this isn't a good sign. I'm kind of just hoping my opponent made awful attacks, but odds are they did not make just pointlessly heinous attacks and actually have a combat trick. Yeah. They, in fact, have a combat trick. That's not going to accomplish anything, is it? Alright, so Chump Block, Dueling Rapier on Flame Fist Officer, take 6. Kind of need to top deck the Horn at this point. And then somehow beat my opponent just having giant creatures as well. How do I beat an 8/8? How do I beat an 8/8? How do I beat a Pegasus Guardian, for that matter? Dueling Rapier does have flash, yes. Flaming Fist Officer might have almost been helpful if it was here a long time ago, but... I'm getting a slightly foreboding feeling related to... It feels like basically every game we lose has been lost to some 3-for-1 or 4-for-1 rare or mythic. Which is intimidating.